Welcome to Urban Homestead Radio, preserving a homegrown way of life and inspiring others to bring the revolution home. Thanks to the support of our sponsor, Lima Beans. For over 60 years, they have provided practical, non-electrical tools, appliances, and home goods. When technology fails, their products will certainly work. Check out their website at lehmans.com. That's LEHMANS.com.
Let's go down to the urban homestead, Pasadena by the freeway, right down there.
Hi homesteaders, I'm your host Anais Dervaes of the Urban Homestead in Pasadena. Hope everyone is safe, well, and having a wonderful summer despite everything. Despite everything, we're doing well. Garden is growing, and speaking of what's going on in the garden, today I have my brother and head farmer, farm box manager, jack of all trades, I don't know, wear many hats here at of the Urban Homestead. So Justin, you pretty much run the farming operation and everything else. So thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So I think the last episode we talked was, farming in the time of Corona. 3 months later, we're still farming in the time of Corona. So, and I think we talked about then the challenges that there were no restaurants and caterers, and we had thought at that time, summer, things would start letting up, people start reopening. But unfortunately, our clients have not, opened. So leaves us in a kind of interesting predicament. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's really weird because we've been selling produce, edible flowers, herbs, salad mix, to some of these customers for 25 years, and through no fault of their own or a fault of ours, they're closed. So it definitely threw off our planting, harvesting, picking schedule. We have a lot of these herbs growing that were grown especially for the private party kind of crowd, and so now we have to figure out, do we keep them, do we grow new things, do we try new things? And then especially when they canceled the New Year's Rose Parade, it's not affecting us. It wouldn't affect us directly, but it would affect our clients. The caterers would do the parties, the New Year's parties, and so yeah, we're sort of kind of scrambling what to plant if we can't sell that for the next 6 months
or more. So that's going to be interesting. I know. So yeah, it's like we've had 20, like you said, 25 years. We had this, we plant this for this season. Spring, we planted the stuff for spring, but then the edible flowers and the herbs, and you didn't have any, spring weddings. You didn't have any graduations, no Mother's Day, no Father's Day. So all that went to, I wouldn't say waste, but didn't end up the income, because the income from the catering and restaurant clienteles are pretty much a chunk of our, especially during that
3 months. Yeah,
that 3 months, spring and maybe a little bit in fall, is a big chunk of change for the farm.
Yeah, but ironically or whatever, they shut down everything during the peak, Mother's Day, weddings, graduation, April, May, June, and during those 3 months, we could bank some income because of the parties and weddings that they were having. Unfortunately, we haven't sold much of the herb mixes and the edible flowers, so the question is, do we grow edible flowers in the fall if there's no market for them? I think our joke is, yeah, you can eat a whole bowl of them, but you can't really...
But it doesn't, in terms of dollars, it doesn't. But speaking of dollars, the Farm Box program is, like you said, you went from 10 sources of income-ish, let's say, workshops, tours, classes with the school kids, and the Farm Box. And now we're down just to the Farm Box program. And the Farm Box program is growing, and we appreciate the support from the community. So we've grown to how many boxes now?
It's average about 150 a week. So we went from 50 pre-corona to 150 post-corona. It's been about steady for the last several months. We've lost some really good customers, because their circumstances changed, they had to move.
And they're moving because of COVID.
Yeah, so...
Like longtime people are saying they're moving back with their family to ride it out.
Back east or up north to Oregon and stuff like that. So we hate to see them go. They've been 7 years, I think. Some of them 7, 8 years, but things are changing. They have to take care of their families, so we got to take care of ours.
I know. I mean, it's not. I've talked to some of them. Why stay here if you don't have a job? Rents can't afford. So go back to your family, ride it out, and then see what happens after this. So speaking of what's happening, is it's the middle of summer, and it's August. For some reason, this week it was August, mid-August. It's been pretty mild. So of course, it's going to go back up to we're going to peak into this weekend into 100 degrees, but it's been a relatively mild growing season. So tell me a little bit, like maybe the challenges that you've had to face this summer, some things that grew well, some things that didn't grow well.
The cucumbers probably have been a surprise. I don't know how you say that. It was like our best year in maybe 5 to 10 years. They were 6 to 8 feet tall. The cucumbers were 2 feet long. Unfortunately, they get mildew and stuff like that, so we had to take out a first batch and plant another batch. It's a little risky now to plant because it's like 3 months. That gets us to October. It's going to be warm enough for the next crop of cucumbers, but it's too hot to plant some of the fall crops. The tomatoes look good. I did see some spider mites on the tomatillos, so I pulled them out. What else? The Trombosino squash is doing the full figs coming in nicely. Guavas look good.
And peppers
As usual. But
speaking of pests and stuff, did you have any problems? Different pests this year that you didn't? Was there something? Did something like this season? Did it grow right? Was things off? Was it on schedule? Was it off schedule? Compared to other growing seasons.
Well, due to the somewhat mild weather, we were able to get salad mix sort of into July, which our target date is July 4th for most of our salad mix. We were able to get it a few weeks past that. Unfortunately, I thought, I said, no Bugrada for a long time, and then we had a heat wave, and of course they showed up and they decimated the brassicas, so I had to take them out. But it was risk. It was my risk to plant it, so it was a gamble. I got a couple pounds out of it, and then I had to pull them out, give them to the chickens and stuff like that. So it was expected, but a little bit later than expected.
So like I said, we're here in August. So August and everything after, what's going to come up? What are you pulling out? What are you starting to plant? We're in mid-August. So what's the succession planting schedule going to be like?
I think I'm going to ride out the tomatoes. I'm not planting any more tomatoes, but I'm planting more pole beans, cucumbers, and what else? Some Swiss chard, a little bit heat tolerant. In the shade of the tomatoes, use them on the north side of the tomatoes. Cast a little bit of shade for some of the greens. Some summer greens like endive, Caribbean spinach, amaranth. The goosefoot, of course, takes over the whole yard. The basil didn't do too well. I was disappointed in the basil.
What happened with that? Tell me. I mean, like
I don't know if
I was
it was
a little disappointed too.
A different variety I tried, but the mildew got them.
They look early.
Good. They look good.
Yeah.
They look good
From the top. They look good.
And then all of a sudden, either it was we
but
had
then
a cooler.
You turned under the leaves, and they were sort of like.
But it was overnight.
Yeah.
They looked good, and then they had the mildew, and then I had to pull them out. So, fortunately, last year I did better on the basil. I don't know if it was because I'm busier or distracted, or it was a different variety. So I'm trying another batch. Maybe it was a.
Speaking of busy, how are the interns working out? We have about 8 now. How are they helping out?
I think we had up to 12, and then some came twice a week. So it was like 20 volunteers or interns coming per week, and then of course it varies because they are volunteers and they come in the time. So it was good, like 5 to 20 a week, average.
So how are they helping you? Are they learning? I've heard, of course, because we interviewed a couple, that they're learning a lot of things, and have they been helpful in, like the growing success of the garden, of like keeping on top of things?
Oh, most definitely, because they help me stay on top of the things I don't have time to get around to. Certain volunteers like compost or mixing compost or turning compost, and other ones like soil block making, so they keep the succession planting going and growing. Others help with picking and packing for the farm boxes. We did lose some to change in circumstances,
summertime and back to school.
And moving back home. But yeah, I don't know.
Oh yeah, well, like one of our volunteers, she's moving back to England. She's like, I'm done. So
Yeah, there was no job.
last person turn off the lights.
Yeah, so that was, but they definitely help do a lot of the. I definitely know when they're not there because I have to do a lot more. But hopefully they're learning. Some of the ones that have been around for a year or two, they have free reign to do what they want. I said, this is what needs to be done, and they pick and choose what they want. Others just make themselves at home, taking care of soil blocks or watering.
Some don't even want to leave. It's not they're still here.
Yeah,
I go about
2 or 3 hours, and then they go home with some produce. So and
they're
then
happy.
They pick their own produce, so it's pretty cool.
So food is our currency.
They've been a great bunch.
So they give in time, and we give in food. So we appreciate that. Let's see. We got an email from one of our fans. She lives in New Mexico. She came to one of our tours back in January, and we do miss the tours, our once a month tours. It was very nice to share and show people around. And we'll talk more. Like I said, we have a lot of improvements that have been going on because, like I said, we're stuck at home, stuck at the homestead, sort of, and we figured, hey, let's do stuff we wanted to get around to doing, and with no distractions, no workshop distractions, no school, scout groups, no tour. So we've been doing a lot, and you can follow, I think, some of the stuff, pictures I posted on Instagram. But this lady, she, like I said, lives in New Mexico, and she said, she asked that if we could, on one of our podcasts, talk about what you're growing in the summer heat. So you mentioned that. Again, it was tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, squash. Beans.
But I think she said anything else. Lima beans is, years ago we had very good success with these Christmas limas. I sort of dropped the ball in the last couple of years planting them because I didn't have time to pick them. But with the volunteers, I made a concerted effort to grow them. So they're on the fence.
So the limas,
both fences,
right?
The Christmas limas, they grow about 8 to 10 feet tall. They love the heat.
So Christmas tree limas.
Christmas limas.
Or Christmas limas, sorry.
Yeah, they look like, when they're dry, they look red and white.
Oh, yeah, so they're
yeah, this is... Yeah. So they grow 8 to 10 foot tall. They don't mind the heat, and they seem to take care of themselves. There's some aphids maybe later in the season, but
yeah, because that is a challenge. When like you said, anything besides squash, peppers, and cucumbers and tomatoes. There's really in the summer months. There's
peppers. There's hot peppers, sweet peppers, bell peppers, shishito peppers. And Hungarian peppers, all sorts of.
There's what's that hot tolerant amaranth? Remember that one that we used to grow?
The Caribbean spinach?
No, it was blonde.
Yeah, it was white amaranth.
Yeah, white amaranth.
Called callaloo. I bought some white amaranth seeds because I didn't have them, but they turned out to be green amaranth. So I have the green amaranth, I have the red amaranth volunteering all over the place, and then I have the Caribbean spinach, which is like a variegated amaranth. And they love the heat, so I have that growing all over the place, basically. The basils, there's holy basils, there's citrus basil, there's purple basil, there's Italian basils. They love the heat.
Oh, and herbs too.
Mints. What else?
Rosemary.
Sunchokes, Jerusalem artichokes. Their little yard is full of them. They volunteer, and they come back every year in the same bed. They love the heat. They don't need much water. They grow 8 to 10 feet tall. They're not for the small yards because they can get pretty good. And then the squash. Tramasino squash, we have it over a trellis.
We like because
you use them green as zucchini, and then if you miss them,
and they grow too big,
then they dry, and they turn into butternut type squash, and they store for a year.
So one plant, 2 uses: summer squash
and it vines.
Winter squash.
So unlike zucchini, this one goes up and over the pathways on the north side of the house, and it shades the house from the heat, It produces squash blossoms, produces, like I said, 2 harvests, and it's pretty well, fairly mildew tolerant.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks pretty good.
So, all right. So she also has a second part to the question. I'm also, her garden's infested with leaf miners and wonder if this happens to you and how you deal with it. I'd really love to know.
The leaf miners really, in the last 5 to 10 years have bothered the citrus. So we have some blood orange trees, we have some lemon trees, and you read about them and they said it does not affect the harvest, but it makes the plants look like crap. So what you could spray is spinosad. It's organic, OMRI listed, SPINOSAD, and it treats leaf miners. Now, if you can't really tell if it's dead or alive after spraying it, so you might have to remove the tips or the leaves and spray it, or before and after or whatever. But spinosad definitely works. It's just, it could be pricey, costly. You have to decide that, and you have to keep on top of it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, growing organic is a challenge, and especially with the way we do it. Everything is in, tight, small spaces, square inch, multi-storied. So there's little room for error because everything is growing on top of each other. And like if you came to our yard now, it looks like a jungle. Can't see from one side to the next, and it's overgrown. I think even one person mentioned that it smells different, and they can definitely tell it's cooler in our place. So definitely renewing the air around us. So that's great. And there's a lot of birds too. People notice that when they come, the amount of birds, the butterflies, and the bees. I mean, our garden is alive. And so not only we're growing food, but and that it's beautiful, but we're also providing a sanctuary for all the wildlife. And and you've been doing some new projects. Like you're doing some bees. You've got an observation hive. It was supposed to be for the kids, but you're going to hang that so that people can see the bees. What else new projects are you doing?
I got a wheatgrass sort of fodder system, soilless, true wheatgrass for the catgrass or for the chickens, and that worked out pretty good. The first batch, the instructions said plant 1 tray every day for a week, and I didn't listen, of course, and I planted all 10 trays. And so it's a lot of wheatgrass. It's supposed to have been staggered. So this time I planted 2 trays a week. So
cool.
Hopefully I learned my lesson. But
it was beautiful. I had a lot of trays of wheatgrass. It was gorgeous.
It was supposed to be staggered. They all came due, or they all were ready at the same time. So that, and then we're upgrading the chicken coop. So what do you say, the western edge of the garden, some of the corners of the yard, so the compost pile, chicken coops have been upgraded. Corners that we haven't touched in a while due to being busy and things, so we're able to get to the 3 of the corners. There's still 1 corner that I haven't touched yet, and it's sort of overgrown with blackberries and stuff like that.
Well, that'll be probably a fall project when everything comes down, and just kind of cut back and kind of see, where and that's what happens when we and we tell people when they come to our tour is every growing season we take stock at the end of the summer into the fall months. We take stock of the edible landscape in the front yard, in the garden, in the backyard, and see what grew well, what didn't grow well, change things up, hack things back. I mean, you do really hack things back, and that's I think some of the successes, as I think one of the volunteers questioned your hacking back of the fig. He was very horrified at
method to our madness.
You're butching the tree fig back to, and he just was. And so that you told me, what did you tell the story? You said you even started questioning yourself. Tell us a little about that.
Dad had his way of pruning fruit trees, trying to keep them small. How do you not small? Low, so that you can pick compact. So where you can pick them, we can't just let it grow crazy. So we had Dad prune the guavas and the pomegranates and the figs, and citrus and stuff like that. So over winter, when the fig lost his leaves and I was pruning it, I was copying what I was taught by Dad, and he's
one of our volunteers
didn't quite understand what I was doing. So I was like, yeah, what am I doing? Because it's, Dad's been gone for 4.5 years. So I was like, oh, is this what? Trying to remember. And so I doubted myself, and I said, okay, let me just sit back a bit and think about it. And I said, no, this is how we do it.
So you cut it back to how you do it, and then what did he came back about a week ago.
I gave him credit, so he came back and he said he was wrong, and he apologized for questioning it. And the tree is loaded with figs as per usual, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
So at the time, every person, I joke, you talk to 10 beekeepers, you get 11 opinions. You can talk to 10 gardeners and probably get the same 11 opinions. But if what worked for us for the last, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, I just copied it.
Yeah.
And was it, is it the proper way to prune it?
Mm-hmm.
But it works for us.
Well, but speaking of works, some things that we talked about, just because some things work for 25 years, like our business worked for 25 years or something, and other aspects of homestead. So just because something worked for 25 years doesn't mean it works now because of the changing times. We're having to evolve, adapt, change in midstream, do all sorts of things, and just take stock of what the situation is.
But the question is, if, let's say, miracle happens and the economy opens up and goes boom, and everybody wants edible flowers.
So too late. You take 2 months.
3 months, 2 or 3 months to grow them.
Yeah.
So you say, okay, let's say
not like
Valentine's
a cake. You can
Day.
bake it.
Yeah. Let's say Valentine's Day. Let's say, do you grow flowers for Valentine's Day? Okay, maybe it's not New Year's. Do you grow flowers for Valentine's Day, or do you grow flowers for Mother's Day?
Yeah.
And since we don't have that much space to say, we have the roses growing because they're perennial and they come back, and the nasturtiums will grow, and I grow marigolds for the companion planting and beneficial insect kind of thing. But how much money do you invest in pansies or bachelor buttons or Johnny jump ups, and say we grow 500 plants?
Yeah.
Do we do that again? But you have to justify growing it. But if you have to start now to say, we'll sell flowers in Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, and so that's the $1 million question: is figure out what we can sell in the next 3 to 4 months.
We definitely know food, so that's the thing.
The front yard is giant. The front yard. We took out that pineapple guava, and that also helped the fig tree. That produced more vegetables. There's squash there. There's lima beans in the front yard. There's some Andean tubers, yacon in the front yard. There's these little Mexican gherkins, cuca melons in the front yard. And so there's more vegetables than there's ever been in the front yard. But we still have a lot of African blue basil, which we would sell for 25 cents a piece. And we have a couple hundred plants of those. So do you keep them? Do you pull them out?
So that is the question. So
that is the $1 million question.
That's the question. So one of the questions I had was, like I said, what, the future is a question for sure. And as as summer winds down, we're going to have to take stock in what we're going to be growing for the fall and winter months, and what are we going to be, selling. If it's just farm boxes, and then so be it. We'd love to, hear from our listeners and fans. So if there's questions that you have for us, please reach out, send us an email at info@urbanhomestead.org, and we'll maybe read one of your questions on air, and when we have Justin here. So hopefully we'll have Justin back pretty soon, because we can definitely talk more about gardening and growing and homestead happenings. And by that time, probably be transitioning from summer to fall, and we'll see what it is in the next couple weeks. Do you have any last things you want to say? Talk about what would you hope for the future?
We're thankful for our network of farms and farmers that have helped us with the farm boxes. We're grateful for the volunteers and interns who have helped us. I'm grateful for the customers that continue to support us. through these times, so we're grateful for that. We also like to know that people, everybody has to eat.
Mhm.
So whether you're left or right or up or down, we all have food in common. So Dad's goal was to feed the world, and hopefully we're carrying that on.
So hopefully people are inspired. Hopefully your gardens are growing with abundant food and surplus, and you're, cooking amazing dinners at home, and you're canning, preserving, and all that good stuff. What are some of the things that you're going to be maybe tackling? New projects maybe come this fall, and then we can and maybe then
hopefully bring back aquaponics and fish farming.
Fish farming, I think we even talked about maybe a duck-aponic system,
Yeah.
whatever that is. Maybe put a duck pond that recycles the water into
and then
raised bed.
upgrade some of the parts of the yard, maybe some of the trellising, the refrigeration. There's always room for improvement there. Hopefully we're small enough, smart enough, and quick enough to adapt. The adaptation was we had set up the garage for workshops, classes, and
Music events.
musical events, and it ended up being our packing house. And
For the farm boxes.
Yeah, so it outgrew our little patio area, our little tables, so we have shelving in there. So it didn't go according to plan, and I think most people's life doesn't have
I
gone
don't think
according
this year had gone according to plan at all.
Yeah,
so
so
and I think so
it's just adapting.
Yeah.
You adapt or die, and hopefully we're smart enough to and quick enough to change with the times. But we've been growing food for a long time, and we're trying to continue to grow food. The question is, grow when, where, how, the market, how to stay in business. There's a lot of people hurting out there. It's tough enough for a small business to survive in a good economy. It's very hard for a small business to stay in business in a bad economy, and it's really bad out there for a lot of people. And we're grateful for the support. And,
we're grateful that we have that we have purpose to get up, feed the animals, do the garden. So we're grateful for that purpose, and the purpose is the garden. If we didn't have the garden, I don't know where we'd be, because it keeps us grounded, and it keeps us.
A lot of the volunteers
with
there
hope.
they came back, or they come 2 or 3 times a week because they're stuck at home, and whether it's an apartment or they need to get out of the house, and it's a beautiful place to live and work. Well, you can't call it work. I don't call it work. This is it's challenging. Our day-to-day schedule really hasn't changed. It's who we sell it to, and what we sell has changed. But our day-to-day farm life, they've been doing for a long time. It's a little bit more pressure, a little bit more intensive.
Yeah, those 2 to 3 days in the middle of the week, man. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're 14-hour days for you?
That's a slow day.
Or wait, it was 25 hours, like I
25.
said one time. Justin works 25 hours a day.
She said I work 25 hours a day. I said, thank you very much. It's mathematically impossible, but I'll take it.
Because you seem to work when we're not even. It's like you're still working. So. But it's wow, because they're customized boxes, and it's just
each
the
box
time
is
it
different,
takes.
and then growing things. But I love what I do, so I'm not complaining. It's grateful. There's a lot going on, and lots of hopefully still going on.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll still be around in a couple of weeks, and we appreciate you tuning into the podcast.
Thanks for having me, but I think you didn't have a choice. But
well, everybody wants to know about gardening. I mean, we should. I keep telling you got to put some videos and stuff, because everybody has questions for Justin, and what's growing. What are we doing, and what's happening, and what's happening at the homestead.
Yeah,
what's
well,
growing.
I mean that it is interesting to see. Like, we had some Occidental interns and stuff that I've been doing my whole life. Growing things or turning over beds, the method to Dad's madness or method to our madness, how we grew things for years and years and years. People are amazed at what we do. It's like, you don't know that? I mean, I've grown up this way, so I have to step back
So
and
is
take
you.
out.
It's
take
amazing to watch them be amazed.
Yes,
So-
and it helps, maybe just be so, to know how blessed we've been.
Yeah,
for-
sometimes you don't know because you're in it until somebody from the outside says, "Wow."
Yeah,
because
and
like
they
I
say,
said, we
what
see
happened? Yeah.
exactly because when you come to the homestead, guess what I see? Oh, I got to do that. Oh, that I got to clean that. I got to do that. I got to do that. Blah, 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 blah. And then they just see, wow.
Yes.
So, all right. Speaking of wow, we'll come to the end of the podcast, and hopefully there's some wows in your life. And yeah, think like I said, you might not notice it, but other people do, and so we have to be grateful for what we do have. And like I said again, hopefully everyone is safe and well, and that they keep on growing, because that's all we have to grow hope. So until next time, see ya.
Let's go down to the urban homestead, Pasadena by the freeway.
We love to hear your feedback
Right
or
down
questions.
there on the urban
Visit us at
homestead.
urbanhomestead.org to check out what's happening on the homestead. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And until next time, keep on growing.